Today is really interesting, especially for me, and I'm excited about this because it's not so much about why I left church, it's more about why I left the faith.
Hey there, I'm Yeoh, the pastor of Generations Church. This is our podcast, and you just tuned in to the Generations on Tuesday edition. Generations on Tuesday, or GOT, is an alternative church experience. It's church, but a little different. No platform, no pulpit, no one preacher, but rather the focus is on Christ, community, and conversations. We have a special heart for those who are in the creative, arts, entertainment, media, music, F&B, and similar communities. And we want to provide a safe space to explore and discover faith in Jesus, but in a not so conventional way. We hope you'll be inspired and impacted by today's dialogue, where we keep it real, raw, and relevant on topics that matter. So let's get right into it. Be blessed.
From worship leader to former believer. As I was thinking about it, actually technically former worship leader would describe Kanesh.
Okay, yes.
Yeah.
In a way, yeah.
But today we're talking about Sam. It's a Sam's story night. Okay, tonight we're going to hear Sam or Samuel Lopez, or maybe better known as Lost Spaces, depending how you know him or at which point of his life you got to know him. We're going to hear his story of how once upon a time he was worship leader. I would even use the word like template Christian. Right? Like everything you see in a young Christian, like involved in school CF, youth leader, worship leader, usher, everything you can think of, template Christian. Today, he's no longer that. Today, he would not describe himself as a Christian. So you could use words like ex-Christian, former believer, just no longer a Christian. So why would a church talk to someone like this, right? Isn't this a Christian podcast? Shouldn't we talk about Jesus stuff, holy stuff? Well, the main reason is, I think, the message we're trying to send across is that I think churches shouldn't be naive because there are many people who sit in our church seats or pews, if you have pews, or sit on our church floors, that perhaps are going through or have gone through or have already been through what Sam has gone through and what he'll be sharing with us tonight. We would describe this process as deconstruction. And there are people like that in our churches, and they may not be vocal about it. You may not know it's happening. Maybe it's not reached a stage where they become public about it. But they are there. They're in our churches. They're asking questions. So we thought it would be a good idea to speak to someone who's gone through the whole process, come out the other end and decided, you know what, this Christian faith is not for me. It does not describe my convictions, does not describe my belief. And the intention is so that we can listen to this conversation and listen with an open mind, open heart, listen with a heart to learn. Like, what can the church learn from someone who's been through this process? What are kind of questions that they are asking, and how can we better prepare ourselves to deal with those questions? That will be why we're doing this. Right, Kanesh, will you describe it that way?
Yeah, that's correct. I think Pastor Andy mentioned I do a lot of behind the scenes stuff, right? So I think for a lot of conversations that we've been having here on Tuesdays and many episodes that we've done, we kind of always get topics revolving around church. For example, we did topic on why a person left church. We talked about the various types of churches, and we talked about it, we discussed it. Today is really interesting, especially for me, and I'm excited about this because it's not so much about why I left church, it's more about why I left the faith. And this is probably more, we're getting more deeper on. And I do know a lot of friends who have not just left the church, they have left the faith. And I'm excited to hear, Sam, what you're going to share, because it's hard to get them to open up their stories. Because they've left the faith, right? It's really hard.
I was super scared also when I said yes. So I was like,
thank you for doing this. And
this?
Actually, you probably not know this, but we are from the same hometown and stuff like that, right? So I think at some point of my life, I do look up to you because you are also from this COP, and I'm from...
I was from Baptist.
Baptist? Yeah, so I'm from Anglican church, and then Baptist, that time, if you know, Ipoh stuff, okay, so Baptist, Methodist stuff, and COP is like, wow, the top of the, In Ipoh, it's like, yeah. So everyone from this church, you know, we
We
look
did
up to
have
them.
like, I guess, the biggest youth groups at that time.
Yeah.
Right.
Really,
The
really.
camps and stuff, yeah.
So we're going to hear from Sam how did he end up being worship leader, temple Christian to like now non-Christian, all right? And the goal of this episode, if I may reiterate, is to provide reflection points for pastors, church leaders, believers alike to understand, maybe empathize, respond more effectively, especially towards this generation of Christians or struggling, questioning Christians, so that future so-called departures could be handled better, and maybe can be engaged better also as they are processing through this. So let's start with Sam. Sam, would you? We tried introducing you. How would you introduce yourself? Who is Sam? What does Sam do?
Yeah, okay. No, first of all, I want to point out that just now you mentioned that I'm a bigger artist. You inspired me to even do music in the first place. So you are one of the artists. So
Wow.
give props to Pastor Andy. Altered Frequency forever.
Yes.
Okay. Follow. Those that watching are like, what's that?
Check out Altered Frequency.
Yes.
guys.
Yes.
Unfortunately, no YouTube channel. Okay.
But on a side, that was a side track. I just wanted to point that out. So who am I? I'm Sam Lopez. I technically am a 30-year-old. I would like to describe myself as a 30-year-old Gen Z because I have started unironically using W's in the chat. And
Wow.
Like for real, like as part of my lingo, which is strange, but so yeah, I'm a 30-year-old Gen Z.
Okay.
And I'm from a small town, Ipoh, like they mentioned. And I've been based here in the Klang Valley for the last 6 to 7 years. Yeah, I also make music full-time as the artist Lost Spaces. I've been releasing music since 2018, and I produce, sing, write, all on the project. And I was a second-generation Christian. I accepted Christ when I think I was 10, and like Pastor Andy said, I was that template, like the arc of growing up in church with church leadership. I was from a Baptist church too, so there was quite strong like theological foundations, I would say. I was exposed to the word very young, and I was very curious as a child. Like I was very like, oh, why is this the way it is? Like I always ask questions, I think even from a young age. But because of my upbringing, I think the reinforcement was always the biblical worldview, right?
Yeah.
So I think that was why I ended up being very fervent and very committed. I still remember back in high school, I used to wear, a lot of my Ipoh friends, I don't know if you remember this, but I used to walk around proudly with an I Love Jesus t-shirt.
Oh,
and that was like, you know those I Love New York thing? Like mine was I Love Jesus, and that was who
It's
I
a
was.
Giordano thing, that red love.
Yeah, that heart thing.
Yeah.
So I had I don't know who made the thing, but I just bought it, and that was my uniform. So my upbringing throughout my whole childhood and also my teen years was very rooted in faith. I think also it was in my teenage years when I met Pastor Andy for the first time during the Revel project. So I was also a part of the Revel project back then.
Yes, I remember that.
Recess Revel with my best friend Josh. So I worship led. I also wrote, like music for me was actually introduced in church. Like I was exposed to multiple instruments. I realized I could play the guitar and sing. I realized I could. Also, my parents didn't allow me to listen to secular music, so I learned all my instruments, drum, bass, guitar, through like the 3 Hillsong United albums. Look to You.
Right, yes.
Wow.
Break Free. Like I
Yes.
learned how to play every part.
Yes.
Wow.
Because my church was at that time a small church, so we were growing our youth group and all. And my brother was an amazing drummer, so I was like, he banned me from playing drums because that's his instrument. So I ended up playing guitar, and then I realized I could sing and play guitar. And I think every year, my first like songwriting experiences was also, I just wrote the camp songs for every year. And I started doing that when I was 14. Some of my friends still jokingly say if I stayed the course, I would have been a CCM legend or something. Next Aubrey Suito. I still remember those songs quite clearly, actually. But so yeah, that's my I guess my upbringing, and right now I just do music full time. I also love the music business side of things, so I do work with like other artists with their distribution projects and everything. So yeah, lengthy introduction, but yeah, that's me.
Yeah, so born in Ipoh and grew up there. At one point moved to Penang.
Oh yes,
Right?
I did move to Penang.
I still remember keeping in touch with you while you were in Penang because you went to a church that was a good friend of ours and kept in touch.
Yeah, shout out Pastor Sam. Yeah, he was great. Yeah, I enjoyed my time in the church. Yeah.
Yeah, then you came to KL and you said you've been in KL for the past 6-7 years. So then, you know, if you do the little math, your so-called deconstruction process would have started somewhere in KL?
Actually, my first few questions started when I was in Penang.
Okay.
But, like I said, shout out Pastor Sam Surendran. He's amazing. I think he was a great teacher as well. Like, I think his way of teaching was very methodical, and also, I would say I was getting good food. So even though I had questions, I felt like I still was able to chew on good theology, to put it simply, right? And I think after I moved to KL and I was searching for a church here, I will not say which church, but I settled in a church which I think did accelerate my deconstruction, mainly because it was very watered down, and a lot of the questions that I was facing at that time, as I was coming to a new environment again, making new friends, meeting new people, definitely changed a lot of how I view church, and then also my faith. Yeah. So.
Okay, so let's talk about like a life after change, after leaving the faith, or however you want to call it. What does a day-to-day life for Samuel Lopez feel like now? Because we described what your life was then, writing worship songs, writing camp songs, church this, church that. What's it like now that faith and church are no longer a part of your life? What's changed for you?
Well, I get to sleep in on Sundays.
Sundays.
Actually, us too.
right.
Our church is on
I
Saturdays.
heard you guys do church differently, which is great. You know,
Yeah.
Sundays are great to sleep in. If I were to preach something, that would be the number one thing. But no, jokes aside, my day-to-day actually is pretty, I guess, normal. I think when I was a Christian, I was very about people, for better or for worse. I think I was centered around my role. I built my entire identity around being a good brother, good friend. I mean, those are basic things, but like, it was always centered around what Jesus would want me to do. And I will go as far as to say, I think at that point, I did not really develop a real sense of self, because I was really rooted in cosplaying a good Christian almost. So for me now, I just get to do the mundane things day to day. Basically my day looks like I have coffee, I go for a walk, there's a park near my place. I read and journal to start the day, and I do my admin stuff, get it out of the way, and then I make music, usually day to day. So I think for me, it's actually a lot more, I will say I'm a lot more introverted. So I think back then when I had church community, I was around people constantly.
Yeah.
And controversial, I guess, but I think maybe I was actually never extroverted. But because I would be able to gain more favor, the more people I bring in, the more over the years, I just grew up as, I think a lot of people who met me back then used to see me as, oh yeah, he's so charismatic, he knows how to talk to people.
Yeah.
But I think after, as I was deconstructing, I realized that actually, I didn't really like people that much. And that was the honest thing. Not that people are bad, but it took so much from me. And that's why I mentioned earlier where I felt like I had built this entire thing to gain validation, essentially from peers or church leaders, and that's why I was the perfect model Christian.
Yeah.
I did everything by the book, even including my faith, and so I think that's the biggest, I would say, difference from like the day-to-day and what it looks like now. I'm a lot more assured of my sense of self, and I'm a lot more happy to just do things on my own and not need people around me. And I would go as far as to say that I probably came home to who I am, where I am a quiet, thinking, creative that loves to build worlds in his mind through his music. And for me, sadly, it was the absence or the removal of that religious aspect of my life that allowed me to arrive at this point. So yeah.
So what changed really? Because we hear that your templated beginning, how you were raised, how you grew up, and then you went to Penang. You had a good church there, a good pastor who were there to guide you through the many questions that you had. And then you said you came back here, you attended a church, and maybe you felt some questions were not answered, and somehow things accelerated your deconstruction of faith. You started having more questions, started asking more questions. Is it really unanswered questions that brought you to this point, or are there other sorts of events or triggers that got you start questioning about Christianity and the Christian life and churches? And so what got you to this point? Yep.
I think for me, there were many trigger points, I would say. Like over the years, of course, I said like there were many questions that popped up. But if I remember correctly, I think there was this one conversation I had with a very good friend of mine who was a Hindu, right? And growing up in like a Baptist, but I would say Pentecostal, because we did all the worship stuff and everything, background, like I think I was very set on saving people, and definitely I had a savior complex. And now looking back, maybe almost as like an arrogance that I knew the right way and everyone else is doing it wrong, And of course it was a subtle thing that only now in hindsight I look back. But I think when I had this conversation with my Hindu friend, and I was just curious, like I was just asking him like, I think my intention was to save him, was like to try to guide that conversation to Jesus since we were talking about faith. But I came out from that conversation with so much awe about the Hindu religion, And I was like, this thing makes sense for him. And it's such a beautiful, in fact, technically Hinduism does predate Christianity in that sense, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not sure.
Oh, depends on how you...
Depends on where, yeah. Because there's many
What's the
expressions.
beginning?
Right, correct.
Yeah.
But for me, it's like so rich in culture. There are reasons why they do rituals and the reasons why. And I think as I learned more, I was like, I was going to say damn. Can I say damn?
Well, you say something wrong, we just...
Beep, beep. Okay, sorry. I was like, damn, like, who am I to take something so beautiful away from him? Because that was my intention, right, at that point. So I think for me, that was a big shift in like, and I think after that, I began to question like, if he has such a beautiful religion, and I also at that time considered my religion the most beautiful of them all, right? Then in the issue of heaven and hell, I think that was like my biggest point of contention, where it was like, so this amazing young man of a friend is probably going to go to hell because he doesn't believe in my God. And that was my slippery slope, essentially. I started asking a lot of questions. I was curious about hell. I was curious about many different, like even the historicity of my faith, and it kind of, like I started asking a lot of questions. I think that was one of many other multiple points of views. Yeah.
Actually, I want to, what he said earlier, I want to ask you a question also.
Sure.
So as a pastor,
Okay.
a Christian pastor, right?
This is obviously not scripted. Okay, yeah.
No, I took something really interesting because he said there is some form of was that the pride thing, like I am correct and other religion are wrong.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes Christianity we are built that way, right? Because we need to reach out, and reaching out is
Because
part
evangelism
of
is a
our
core.
evangelism is part of our core culture, because reaching out is part of our agenda. And so now when I meet friends, I'm meeting them and I'm speaking to them with an agenda in mind. Like I want to convert them. And
Yeah, to be
And-
honest, sorry
yeah.
to jump in. I really felt I started to examine all these friends I made over the years and I brought to church who was saved. I did have a very high convert count.
Yeah.
I started to question, did I genuinely care about them? you
Right.
know? Or was I
Right.
just...
And a lot of
Stat
times we
padding,
use
you know.
we use that as in we call it love, I love my friend and therefore I need to.
Yeah.
But how does that work in a Christianity point of view? So
Yeah.
if I have a friend, I must preach. So my love is now ingenuine.
Okay, so I'll come back to you.
Yeah.
You asked a question just now about you asked yourself a question like, did you genuinely love your friends?
Yeah,
Did you come to a conclusion? Did you genuinely love your friends, or that?
Half.
So half.
To be very honest, if I'm completely
so
honest, half.
Half you just love them for them. The other half is like,
It's out of
I
duty
want to save
as a-
them
yeah.
because I have a higher, better, more
Christian
true
agenda.
truth.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So back to you is like, how should Christians be?
Yeah, maybe. Or are all Christians just like that, Because they're trained in
Okay.
church to...
So as I get ready to answer you, I also want to put some disclaimers that this conversation is not meant to be a debate. So we won't go there and we will not turn it into a debate.
Yeah.
This really is to listen and learn. But every now and then, certain moments, we may push back some things. And
I think it's interesting though.
I think it's make it a bit more spicy, I guess. So your question is... ask your question again. Like,
So I feel like maybe I'm also trapped in this situation where now if I have a friend, it always feels like if I have a friend who is not a Christian, it always feels like my relationship with them has an agenda behind it.
Okay.
It becomes hypocritical. Right?
Okay.
Yeah. How do you address that from a church?
There's a lot of layers to this.
Yeah.
If you're asking that question, then that is more of a personal thing rather than the religion or the faith per se. You know what I'm saying? Like, if I have an agenda, I have an agenda. Like, my agenda is to save everybody. That's my agenda. That's not necessarily what the Bible teaches us to do every single second and minute of our life. You know what I'm saying? Like, the Bible did not tell me to go to work and all I do is to convert people. In fact, the Bible says a lot of other things which you are very familiar with, right? You love your neighbor as yourself, esteem others higher than yourself. So how can you have an arrogant, better, higher than holier than thou attitude when you have a scripture that says esteem others higher than yourself? Stuff like that, right? So I think if you find yourself, you evaluate your own life and you find yourself having this arrogant, this holier than thou feeling, you should ask yourself why. Because it's not a religion issue. It's how we have processed or interpreted it. That's one. Secondly, I think the last episode, we had Brandon and Sam and Nathan here, and if you guys can just click around and watch it, I think it's episode 8. We talk about truth. Like, truth is truth. Of course, these days we have discussions about like my truth versus your truth and things like that. I think we have to contend with what truth really is. If something is true, is it true for everybody? And if it's true for everybody, of course, you can keep going backwards. Like, who decides it's truth? And if there's truly a being or a power or a source that's much greater than us, and that source, that being, that reality, that entity decides what truth is, who am I to decide it's not? And so I think sometimes we conflate things as well. Like you mentioned that your friend has such a beautiful faith and such a beautiful belief and all that. And how can something so beautiful just be condemned to eternity in suffering and hell and all that? And this might come off I don't know whether it'll come off wrong or not, but that's not where I'm coming from. But more of a question, like, could someone be beautifully wrong? You know what I mean? Like, yeah. And can truth sometimes be ugly also? So is the denominator or should the differentiation be whether something is nice or not nice? Or should it go deeper and we should like discuss on the level or like is something true or not true? You get what I'm saying? So like as you can see, I don't know whether I'm answering your question.
No, we are deconstructing life.
We are deconstructing and there's so many layers to look at, right?
Yes.
And I think therefore, deconstruction is not a simple thing. You don't wake up one day and go like, I don't believe anymore. It's a process.
Yeah.
You ask many questions, many layers of the same questions, and then you go all the way down, you come back up again, you ask again, right? I would think it's not a simple process. Therefore, I don't think there are simple answers.
Yes, for sure.
Per se.
Yeah.
To actually, like, funnily enough, I am agreeing a lot with what he's saying, with Pastor Andy saying. I think I was using that as an example of what sort of like
Triggered
my first few questions. And then as I examined myself, I realized there was a lot of flawed theology and flawed, I would say, Christian, which was embedded more in the Christian culture of the time. So I grew up in the 2000, I was 12 when I accepted Christ. No, 10. So that was 2005, 2000 and like around that time.
Yeah.
So that the brand of Christianity back then in the church was very rooted in servitude. And as a child, as 10 years old, the only time you get like approval or you are being like noticed is basically when you are in places of service or you're doing God's thing, you are going to develop that and it almost it became an anchor of like certainty. That's why I said it translated to arrogance. And it was actually started from a reflection of like, who am I to like put this on someone else?
Yeah.
And then it went down that whole like, oh, is this the truth?
Yeah.
Right. So it started from there, like almost like a self-reflection. And then, but you're right. I mean, like I want to clarify my position, right? I think I am agnostic now, mainly because I feel like I can't. When I looked at the Creed of Nicaea, I can't say everything in confidence, and that was when I realized I was like, wait, am I not a Christian now?
Right. Yeah.
And it was like it wasn't like one day I wake up and I was like, oh. I was going to swear there, but like no, like Jesus not for me, or like I guess I can say screw, right? But it was I think a process of almost 6 or 7 years of like trying to grapple and wrestle. I think the other part that I didn't get into fully was like, I think it was a very lonely period of time because there was the image of who I was supposed to be. Like you mentioned, like Kanesh also, when growing up, I was looked up to as the Christian worship leader, songwriter, and I felt like I needed to upkeep that so that I don't disappoint people. But internally, I was like dying. I think the loneliest I had been in my entire life, even though I was around people all the time. And it was tough because I think I did reach out. I did try to broach topics with, at that time, my peers and fellow Christians around me. But I realized that they don't even ask these questions. Or these questions that, at that time, this was 2014, 2015, didn't even cross their minds. Like, they just, like, then I felt more alone because it's like, am I the only one that's like, thinking about this and figuring it out?
Can I jump in here therefore and ask, since we're in a posture of listening and learning, what were those questions? So it started with like, okay, I'm talking to a friend who's a beautiful human being, but he's going to go to hell just because he believes in the living God.
Right.
And that triggered other questions. What were those questions that you felt lonely about, that you wondered if you were the only Christian asking those questions? What were those questions? And why didn't you feel like there were answers? So you maybe answer the first part first. What were those questions?
There were many questions. I think, like I said, like how I would describe like a deconstruction process. It's a rabbit hole. You know, you ask one question, and then you kind of find an answer, and then that leads you to another question, and it leads you to another question, and it leads you to another question. And I do think that because in 2014, 2015, like I started reading a lot of stuff, different point of views. I did start meeting a lot of different people with different worldviews. Like that Hindu friend was someone I grew up with, so I think, but I met my first few gay friends and they shared their experiences and their lived experience. I also met people who completely did not believe in God, right? And I think my conversations with them were always very antagonistic. Or at least I felt like I was always there to gung-ho apologetics defend my faith. But after a while, I mean, from different sources that they point out, they gave me a few different arguments. And so I think one of the biggest questions at that time was like I think they call it the geological argument against God. I think that's the term, right? But it was a question that I was like very like I've struggled with it so much because I realized as I studied history and I studied how Christianity even landed here on our shores, right? If we were not colonized by the British, or I think it was the Portuguese before that, right? And they didn't bring Catholicism or some form of of Christianity to this region, we all won't be Christians. The same way how if you were accidentally born, not accidentally, or if you were born in the Middle East, there's a higher percentage chance of you being a Muslim, right, than being a Christian, right? Of course, there are Arab Christians, but I think for me that grapple was always like, why this is supposed to be God's plan to save the world? And I think from my limited understanding as a human being, I'm just like, it just doesn't make sense. Like, and I think I would be a lot more on board if God, and I don't want to be blasphemous here, but so this was my thought process. I would be more on board if God gave every single person equal opportunity to at least know Him, or at least have the chance to say, I don't want, reject God. And then the idea of everyone going to hell makes more sense to me. So I think that was one of the biggest sort of the design of why just this specific group of people in the Middle East, and why the Israelites in particular, and why in this corner of the world, like the hiddenness of His glory, to me that didn't make sense. So of course I've brought a different point up now, but they call it a divine hiddenness where God reveals Himself to you, right? But for me, like both, as I went down that rabbit hole, it was like, first was a geographical thing. So it's like, if my grandparents from Kerala decided not to migrate to Malaysia, would I have been Christian, right? My mom's Chinese. Her parents also made a choice her grandparents made a choice to move here. Of course, all of this is like hypothetical and everything, but those were genuine questions that I was like, of course, at one point I was like, oh, I'm so lucky. Like, I get a chance to be, to know God, right? But then I think as I went deeper, I was like, but why? I guess the more empathetic side of me was like, what about my other friends? They were born in a Muslim family. They were born in a Hindu family. Like, of course, I can try to preach to them, but like, they didn't like, if they were not in Malaysia, probably they wouldn't have a chance to even walk into a church, right? What about the Sentinelese people? I heard they're like the most they are untouched people in the corner of the earth, right?
Yeah.
So I think that was one of my biggest questions at that point of time. And sadly, I didn't really have anyone at that time to. I remember asking a pastor from the church that I was going to at the time here, and he said, "Oh, the Lord's ways are higher than our ways." And then I was like, "That's such a cop out. Just tell me you don't know, it's fine, But I think for me, it was just like such a disappointment because I then had to go and like look at the Bible myself, look at different sources, and I'm a big history nerd, so I started reading how religion spread, how Christianity spread throughout the world, what were the key junctures and key points, and then I was like, wow.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
this sounds very blasphemous, but I was like, I think at the time I remember thinking, I was like, God, you are God. Like, can't you
Right.
come up with a better plan that gives, from my limited understanding, equal access to everyone
Yeah.
to have an opportunity to say yes or no to you, you know? So,
Yeah.
but yeah, so that was one of the big
Okay.
junctures, yeah.
Kanesh, as a Christian listening to this, what's your feeling right now? Like, what are thoughts running through your mind?
I feel lucky, yeah.
You are lucky.
Yeah. But
You're
you
lucky
know,
you're born in Ipoh.
yeah, lucky you know this guy. But I think I wanted to say that you made a very good point earlier. I mean, this I can't answer this question, but you made a very good point earlier about cultural upbringing into questionings. Like, I think this is something I go through also. Growing up, we are taught to only say yes to everything, not to question anything. I mean, Asian household, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Someone says serve, you serve. Someone say this is the right way, this is the right way. And that build up all the way, and up to now, someone says God's ways are higher. And then you know, the pastor probably expects you to accept that as an answer. And I think that's why we're having this, because we also want to help pastors these days and leaders these days to really learn how to dialogue, discuss some of these popular questions. Actually, I don't think you're the only one asking these kind of questions, but real deconstruction of faith, where you start questioning everything about the Bible, start questioning everything about God, and that's not wrong.
Yeah.
And because we start questioning, people are saying we are wrong. Like, why are you questioning? Why you don't have faith?
Yeah.
You know, and
I have had people kind of like brush off my questions, where it was like, and these are not like leaders or anything, these are like peers and friends. And I think one of the things that I felt very ashamed of growing up was like, why you think so much? Like this
So were
like
those some of the? I was going to ask, what kind of response did you get when you asked those questions? So one was, the Lord's ways are higher.
Yeah.
And when the hand must go up also, right?
Sorry.
The whole look and the
actually,
whole
that pastor actually did that.
It's the whole package. It has to be like this, okay? I mean, you just walk long enough. Yeah, you had that. You had the why you ask so many questions.
Yeah.
Sort of implying you shouldn't be asking.
Yeah. It was
so many
almost like
questions.
and I don't blame them, because like I think from where we were from and like where I ended up in, also in like in the KL church, it was like I did realize that a lot of these people had kind of everything laid out for them. Whether it's church community, if I want to go as far as to say like there's a lot of privilege there. So for them, it's like when your life is kind of set up where you don't have to question it, I don't really blame them, you know? So when I got that response, I wasn't really like hurt or offended, but I also try to empathize and try to see from their point of view. Like it's just, maybe they just it didn't cross their mind, or...
it's a template answer.
Yeah, correct. It's a template
lifestyle
answer.
to a
And
template answer, yeah.
I also understand that I think for me, a lot of things that like also drove me down this, I wouldn't say down this road, but like brought me to this path also was, I think almost like necessity and need for survival, right? Like in terms of, I chose to do a very hard industry, which is music, and try to make that my living. Yeah. And I think me questioning stuff and second guessing my path, like not only my professional career, but my self-identity, was very paramount. And that's why I have a lot of empathy for those people that don't have to. No, I mean, I guess at that time maybe I had some envy, but I was like, they don't have to think about it. And then I had to like think about it because I needed to be, and that, actually, to be honest, that's why I gave myself the artist name Lost Spaces, because I think until this very day, I'm still in the pursuit of finding my place in the world, finding truth on whether it is, and I will I think I mentioned to Pastor Andy that like right now my position as a non-Christian or a agnostic person is a current. I use the term current conclusion, right?
Yeah.
And for me, I think this is going to be a lifelong thing where as new information comes and as I learn about things, and who knows, like science and whatever that I lean to now might lead me back to the faith, right?
Yeah,
And,
it's good to hear that.
yeah, so...
Because I asked him, like, Kanesh, as you were listening to him saying, what did you feel? He said what he said.
Yeah.
My end,
Yes.
I'm sitting here listening, I'm thinking,
Yeah.
I have so many answers for you.
Right, cool.
No answers, more like...
We can, definitely.
I can have a conversation with you about those questions that you asked.
Yeah.
But I won't do that here in this show.
Yeah, so sure.
But we are friends enough to do this later, like,
For sure.
or some other time.
Yeah.
But it's good to hear that you are also, it's your current conclusion.
Yeah.
It's as much as you know now.
Yeah.
Because I've never not been a non-Christian after I become a Christian.
Right.
So I never had like a current conclusion where I would say to myself, I don't believe in the Christian faith. I never had that, like you. But I had other current conclusions in the past about God, about the Bible, about like even this over dinner just now, like which is the most correct Bible translation, right? I used to believe that this particular one is the only one we should read because all the other ones are inferior. Yeah. I don't believe that now anymore.
Right.
So people do evolve, new information comes, surfaces, it's good. It's good to be in a position where like I don't know everything. Yeah. I may know more a year from now, and it's good to be flexible. Yeah. To change. So I look forward to having some of these conversations with you some other time.
Yes, for
sure. Because if you do it here, this won't end, right? So,
yes.
But were there other? So you said like your conversation with a friend led you to this question. Did this question lead you further down the rabbit hole? And were there other questions like? Because like if I'm representing the church, a Christian, I want to be prepared, right? Like, okay, what other questions may come our way that I shouldn't just, the Lord's ways are higher. Right.
I think the next big one after the whole geographical argument is, I think it was, I started to question the historicity of the Bible.
Okay,
right? Yeah. So I think as I read and also sort of understood like context of history, how technically before Constantine at that time, Christianity was kind of like a sect or a cult kind of in the eyes of the Roman Empire, and then Constantine saw Jesus in the sun or something. I don't know the exact, I don't remember exactly.
I think he saw a cross.
He saw a cross and he became a Christian and made Christianity the official religion. And as I was going through all of that, then I was like, oh, this is how Christianity became legit, right? And then of course the Creed of Nicaea, and I mean that meeting, right? That kind of decided the books of the Bible. Then I started to like, if they could decide which books. Then I stumbled upon the book of Enoch, which I think was so fascinating.
Okay.
It's like the best fan fiction. Like I when I was reading Enoch, I was thinking of an entire like feature film of like it was just so like to me it was like, why is this not in the Bible? And then of course when I look at it theologically, I get it. But that triggered that question of like, so somebody decided, or not somebody, maybe a group of people decided that these books were canon and then the rest were not. And then does that not mean that it has been tampered with over the years, which that was my questioning during that process. And then I find out that the current Bible that we have has been translated like 6 or 7 times till we get the English version that we consume, right?
Okay, yeah.
And then to me, I was like, it's done by humans. Humans make errors. And that led me down these like train of thoughts of like, And also, I mean, if you study history also, you understand that most rulers at that time, especially during the, what age was that? The feudal age, right? They always had some claim to divinity. And religion was always used as a tool to control the masses, right? And then I reflected on the whole Constantine thing too, right?
Okay.
It's like, was he using that as his crux to like unify? So if you look at history, so he had his set of problems as well. So going from the cynical, like political point of view, I was more like, I started to question. I was like, damn, did he just do that to have some form of like, what do you call, order? And that was the best tool at that time because, So those were my, I know I wasn't very articulate with it, but because it's so long ago, I think this was like 2014 when I asked this. I think that was the train of thought behind, then I started to look up like, is this real? Is that real?
Yeah.
And I think that point, I started looking at science. And then I realized that I was taught apologetics growing up, and they always told me, oh, the theory of evolution is just a theory. And then I actually read the paper and the science behind it, and I was like, wait, so I can't be a creationist now because, or at least I could be a creationist, but I would need a leap of logic for me to get from the creation that's said in the Bible. And the Bible also says that it's like a few thousand years old only, but the earth is actually millions of years old, right? And that was also the first shift of me looking at science and seeing if science was compatible with the Bible at all, right? Or at least what I had learned. And then I went down more rabbit holes. So that was that was the process. I can't fully remember what exactly, but that's what I remember.
So now I'm very curious to know. I'm not sure what curiosity Kanesh has, so he can ask the question. So I have asked those questions.
Right.
Almost exactly the same. Like, how do I know the Bible is true? Has it been tampered with?
Yeah.
I've asked the exact same questions. Went through the same rabbit hole. Can't say I'm out of those rabbit holes. Sometimes I still go back in there.
Right.
But for me, it's led to me believing in this even more.
Right.
I'm even more convinced that the Bible is true and this Jesus is real.
Yeah.
But it's led you to a different conclusion.
Yes.
I'm curious as to why. Like, two persons ask the same questions, we end up in two different places.
Yeah.
Like, what could be, what was different for both of us that led us to different conclusions? Like, was it the people that you asked? Was it where you went to look for answers? Was it, I don't know, different times? I don't know, just...
I think maybe it was, I think the lens that I searched was definitely more, like I said, in the lens of science, right? Like, of course, I'm asking like all these questions about the history and how the Bible came together. And then I think for me, why I think I ended up there is because after asking all those questions, I already had started to be a skeptic in general.
Okay.
And I think I started to lean more to give me facts rather than in a weird way, I think I just abandoned faith.
Okay.
Not that I didn't believe, but it was just like, okay, what do I have in front of me? How do I... and I think at that time also, I was also very like consuming a lot of like different kind of literature in terms of like world affairs. I think my politics also started leaning a lot more to the left. And I started reading a lot of papers regarding like post-colonialism and like how like basically Christianity was used as a tool to colonize the rest of the world, right? There are certain countries that only had access to, the British had access to because of the guise of missionaries and faith.
Okay.
And they were the ones who paved the way into, made inroads with the locals and eventually brought their goods and everything and took over, right, essentially.
Yeah.
So for me, like when I look at it from that lens, I think it will make me a lot more skeptical to see Christianity as a tool that men have made to oppress others. Of course, I'm not discounting what the good that Christianity has done. We've built schools, we've built, like, I come from a La Sallians Brotherhood school. I love my best experience, St. Michael's. But I think at that time, because I was down a rabbit hole and there was a lot of, I guess, unanswered questions, and I think whenever I brought things up with it, like, people always like either disappointed me or never thought of it. So then I definitely was more negative, or I was a bigger skeptic, I think. And I would go as far as say probably there was a lot of bias there, a confirmation bias to science and I guess history. And my general feeling of like not thinking the best of everyone. Like I was like, people are actually evil. Like, I don't think everyone is inherently good. I think that was also muddied that thought process, and I'm very self-aware of it. Because I also have another friend that went through a similar like questioning. I only found this out like recently, like when we had a conversation, and she landed on like it deepened her faith, right? And when we were sort of comparing notes, we kind of was looking at the same thing, kind of like going down a similar pattern of questioning, but I think for me, that made me like, oh, there was definitely a bias away from scientific bias. So I rather like lean on the science than trust something that I'm not sure if like it really God's word or not, or did man just put it together to control the masses and history and conquest. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, if I can just make an observation, because you're saying both of you question the same thing, but the outcome is different. So maybe, Sam, you are looking at it from a baseline of, I already don't believe this, convince me otherwise. Whereas
yes,
maybe
I think
from
that
your
is
end,
actually the more
so
accurate
maybe from
thing.
your end, you're like, I already believe this, you have to convince me not to believe it. So same questions asked, but different baseline.
Yes, I think definitely that. I don't think I knew that at that time. Because at that time, I still counted myself as a Christian. I still counted myself as someone that believed. But I think maybe the hipster in me was like, I need to like be different about this. I can't like, sorry, I always consider myself different even when I was in church last time. But I think there was definitely some form of like, the approach was different where, like he said, is correct. It's like, okay, I'm assuming everything is wrong already. Okay. Convince me otherwise.
Yeah, okay.
So that was definitely my position, I think, even though I still held on to the faith. But it was like, I think at that time, I think I'll also bring this up, where I think there was many layers of, I guess, how I was brought up as a Christian also that was inhibiting me from like actually like growing as a human being or developing as a person. And maybe that trauma or whatsoever, I think through my therapy sessions the last few years, I realized that it definitely informed how I was approaching religion subconsciously. Yeah. Approaching my faith, subconsciously.
Awesome. So, Pastor, earlier you mentioned you heard about Sam's question and you probably have a lot of answer to give, but we're not here to do that now, right?
Okay, yeah.
I, on the other hand, also a Christian, a believer, I heard his questions. I don't know how to answer him. So if this conversation here is to really help people engage with others who are deconstructing, these are actually really tough questions. Like, I don't think any Christians would have an answer prepared if they were to converse with people like Sam, right?
Yeah.
But how would you recommend us Christians, pastors, leaders to be prepared? Yeah.
Wow.
We're not all in Bible school.
No. Let's start with that simple children's church song that we all somehow know.
Jesus,
read your
yes.
Bible,
Oh,
pray
read your
every
Bible, pray
day
every day.
if you want to grow.
Yes.
I think there are many Christians out there who call themselves Christians who don't even read the text,
Yes.
who don't even read the Bible. That's first and foremost.
Right.
How can you defend something you don't even know in the first place,
Yeah.
right? Like, whether it's right or wrong is secondary now
Yeah.
for the purpose of this discussion. But how can you even defend anything if you don't know what it is? You have to read it. And you have to know what you're reading. I'm reading the Bible with a very clear awareness that this is bigger than me. Right? And it's not a cop-out to say that I will likely never fully understand the Bible.
Yeah.
Because if I can contain the Bible within my own understanding, then I'm bigger than it.
Yeah.
So I have to recognize that, but from a humility standpoint, not from a cop-out standpoint. We cannot understand the Bible, so why bother explaining it?
Yeah.
That's a cop-out. I'm saying, no, I'm reading something that is so much bigger than me.
Yeah.
So therefore, don't stop reading. Don't stop learning.
Yeah.
Therefore, don't stop questioning. Therefore, as long as you're still breathing and alive, learn. Keep asking questions. So that's where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
And like as he's saying all those things, I had to really, because if I'm like 20 years old younger, I'll argue with you. That would be me. I would be like what you were trying to say just now, that I know it all. I have a better religion. I'm going to answer you right now, but I've calmed down. Maybe, I don't know, fatherhood makes you do that or what. I'm not sure.
Right.
But I'm like, okay, calm down. It's okay. Choose your battles, fight another day, whatever. But actually, I had this excitement, actually. I felt an excitement because I'm so glad I learned this.
Yeah.
I'm so glad I learned this.
Yeah.
Because 10 years ago, if Sam asked me this question, I'll be like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I don't know how to answer you.
Yeah.
I have no answers for you. But today, as I'm sitting here, I'm like, I'm so excited.
Yeah.
Like I'm equipped.
Right.
I'm equipped to answer some of your questions, not all of them.
Yeah.
But I'm equipped to answer, and I'm excited that there are resources available, and there's no excuse, because 15 years ago, to learn this kind of stuff, I gotta pay for university, I gotta go to the US, I got to but now it's like almost no excuse.
Yeah.
You can access this kind of knowledge in a lot of places. So I think there's no excuse. So we got to read our Bibles. And if you claim to be a Christian, you got to know the word beyond just your Sunday or Saturday sermons.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Because the people of the Bible actually don't just sit down and listen to sermons. They listen and then they go back home and they read the text again and they actually ask questions.
Yeah.
Like the Bereans, they will go to the synagogue, they'll listen, and they go back and like, okay, that guy, is it really true? They start reading the text. I think that should be the attitude of every Christian.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree. Even as an ex-Christian, I felt like if more people wrestled with me back then, I would definitely. I don't know if my conclusions would have become different, because, like I mentioned, I think there was some layers of trauma associated to the faith or people in religious paths, which I don't think I want to get into. But if I didn't have that and I was just asking these questions, definitely it would go a long way to like be able to walk with somebody at that point in time. Because I will say this, like, it was probably one of the most, like, when I realized I woke up that day, I can't call myself a Christian. My whole world like fell apart, because it was like every fabric of what I had built for 23, 24 odd years was just ripped away, and I think there's a big dread after that kind of manifested, where it's whether it's nihilism or existentialism, it was a mixture of both that I felt, and that's why they call it deconstruction, right? It's like you're literally stripping away a belief system or a way of, in my case, a way of being, and but I would say that, like, I think one thing that maybe, like, since we're talking about like what maybe the church can do in that sense with people who have left or had to go through that, one thing that helped for me was my family kind of saying that, like, you're still my son. My mom said that to me, you're still my son. Like, and I think that hearing her say that, like, she will still love me always, whether or not I was a Christian or not, whether I had my faith or not, was so monumental, because I think the biggest fear I had at that time was like, I will lose all my friends. I will lose all the people I grew up with. I would lose everything that, like, became who I am, you know, like, and it was tough, I think, like, trying to go, like, start again and, like, make new friends almost, and start to, like, build a community outside. And that's one thing I would say, I still look back, like, if there was one thing I miss about church, even though, like, earlier I did say I don't really like people in that sense, no hate to anyone, but it's just like, I just like my space, you know. But I think, like, I do miss the community aspect of church and how real it felt, even though I did question whether I was real to other people. But I do know that the people that, like, I think the fact that I'm still able to have conversations with you guys, even though we've been kind of separated by time and years and now completely different point of views, to me is still something that I will cherish until the end of days. So I think if people are going through that, like, the most important thing is to, like, let them know that they are still human, you know? I think a part of, like, when I deconstructed, I felt less than human. I don't know if that's, actually, yes, I did feel less then, because it was like I was rejecting the very thing that made me who I am, you know?
For so long, for so many years.
long, yeah.
Everything you knew.
And I was also thinking, like, oh, I let down this person, I let down... I think when I eventually posted it to my Twitter, I literally put, like, I'm sorry if I disappointed. Like, I felt the need to, like, you know, I'm so sorry, like, because I did know at that time people did look up to me as a leader and everything. So, yeah.
So, I mean, first of all, thank you for doing this.
Oh, no.
This is...
Thank you for having me,
I don't know what will happen after this when this goes online, and, like, I don't know. It's not like we got that many viewers or so, but the few that watches, we don't know. But so doing this it's a brave move. It's
I think it's also cathartic for me, because I've had to somewhat explain this to, like, individual friends, and that was okay. And I guess maybe a lot of people has built, like, assumptions, I guess, based off the music that I release and the type of, like, aesthetic that I have become, that they're just like, oh, he's just a runaway, he left God. And I've heard that before, like, because my first song, fun fact, with Lost Spaces, is technically a Christian song. Like, my bridge is, you're all I need, when this world fades, only you remain. That's a reference to God, right? And then, of course, over time, my music shifted, right? And I've heard people, like, kind of like, oh yeah, he just wants to go out and sin or whatever. So for me, like, of course I didn't expect you to, like, Pastor and you guys, to even, like, give me a space to, like, actually explain that it wasn't just like I just, like, oh, I'm going to wake up. I think that's a misconception by a lot of Christians where they see someone in church, there's just an assumption that's like, that guy is just, like, he rejected the faith, he's out there to sin, you know. In fact, like I found it really quite, like, funny that I think after I left, and then I started, like, hearing that whole thing about me, the rumors and everything, and I think for me it was like I realized that even though I had left the faith, I still was living technically like a Christian, because my view of the Word of God shifted, right? Before that, the Word was the absolute truth, and that was my blueprint to life, and I believed in Jesus, right? After that, it was more of like, the Bible has such good tools to live life by. And I still do hold on to a lot of what you call core tenets of what the Bible teaches, right? Subconsciously, maybe, or also consciously, right? But I think the difference now is like I read a lot of Zen Buddhism, and I think there was a lot of like Stoicism and everything that. So it's basically a rojak now, lah. Like,
Yeah.
but I was able to actually see the beauty of the Bible a lot more once I didn't look at it as truth. Yeah, that was my experience, and the same way I see beauty in the Quran, the same way I see beauty in the Hindu Vedas, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, so I think for me, I guess where I'm at is like I'm like a humanist. I see everyone as equal. I
Took
see
the best of every religion.
yeah, sort of, yeah. Whether that's right or wrong, I'm still like, but
Yeah.
for me, it has helped regulate my sense of self.
Yeah.
And I guess I live by two tenets, and I don't hurt other people. And I try to live honestly. Mainly also because I felt like when I was a Christian, I was a pathological liar. And I don't know if it is to do, and maybe this is something that discussion for another day, but like there's something to do with like culture and Asian culture together also, where we're always trying to keep the peace, so we don't really say what we truly mean. And I understand that every community, there's nuances and cultural upbringings, but I realized I was so good at masking, right? I was so good at, because I knew what the Christian boy should be, or the image of that. And I basically played the Christian game well.
Yeah.
And
I know what you mean.
another rabbit hole would be like, maybe that's why there's so much scandal and all. Because there are a lot of people that knew how to play the game well and went down that road and whatever. But in my case, I was like, I'm not playing this game. I
Right.
want truth, right? And I sadly went down a different rabbit hole and ended up outside. Yeah. So, but yeah, that was like, sorry, I went off rail a bit, but yeah.
No.
That's my thought process. Like, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know when I'll preach it, but I'm sort of preparing like a sermon series called "To Be or Not to Be Christian-ish."
Right, right. I would love to, love to hear that.
There are a lot of people who call themselves Christian, but they're actually Christian-ish.
Right, right, right. They
Not
cosplay
really.
as Christians. Like,
Yeah. So you mentioned that, and I just remembered that
I look forward to
I'm working
it.
on that. So before we go to questions, we have questions from the audience,
Yeah,
and we'll take
sure.
that. And I'll let Kanesh ask the questions, I guess. But before that, I think I just want to go back to something you said. Then we move on.
Yeah.
You mentioned earlier that if during the time of your deconstruction and you were asking those questions,
Yeah.
now none of us know if it would necessarily lead to a different conclusion.
Yeah.
We don't know that.
Yeah.
Maybe not.
Yeah.
But it would have made a difference, I think I heard you say, if the questions you asked were maybe treated, or the very act of you asking the question, maybe that itself, if it were treated differently, if you were engaged differently, it is possible that you could have a different current conclusion right now. It is possible. So that there is an effect, there is an impact in how a church or Christian brothers and sisters and how they engage with someone who's deconstructing or asking questions, right?
Yeah.
And that gives me a very sober reminder, or maybe a wake-up call even to some people take the Bible verse and they read a part of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know the part that exhorts us to be ready in our season to defend our faith.
Right.
But he actually says right after that, with gentleness
Right. Right.
and humility or love or something like that, I think.
Right.
And if you read further down, the whole goal of defending your faith is not to win an argument.
Yeah.
It actually is to ultimately lead to the worship of God.
Right.
So the act of apologetics, the ultimate goal is to honor God, to worship Him, not to win an argument, not to seem smarter. And the whole middle portion is to do it with gentleness and love. And I think we miss so much Christian-ish.
Yeah,
Well, not Christian.
for sure.
Yeah. Anyway, Kanesh.
Yeah.
Cool. A lot of questions here, but can I ask you one?
Yes, Ken.
At your current position
Yeah.
as a former believer, right? That's what
Yeah.
you said. Do you have expectation on the church today? on how they treat you, on how or they treat the category of people like you.
Right.
Yeah.
So this is I actually don't have any expectation. I think mainly also because in my case, I left the church with very little church hurt. So meaning like I played the game so well that they didn't need to hurt me, And it was a very like theological, like mind kind of like deconstruction. And that has allowed me to look at church with a little bit more, like, I guess, nuance, where I think I see Christians the same I see everyone else, right? Like, we're all just human beings trying to find our place in the world, trying to make sense of our existence. And Christianity is a way, And I always say this, I think I told this to my best friend who is still very much religious, and we're still loving each other like as brothers. I always tell him sometimes, I envy the faithful, right? Like I somewhere along the line, I just didn't have it in me to like continue having faith, right? And also I think in that period of time, I did feel that God and Jesus was just silent, right? I felt, it's so weird to say, like, I felt like he abandoned me, Not that because I was wrestling. I was doing the work. I was trying to find answers, right? But having said that, having gone through all of that and gone through different seasons, like, and also understanding, like, cultural context, and every person, to me, is the same, right? Like, whether you're Christian, you're Muslim, and we're all trying to figure out. Of course, I sound like super like humanist, satu Malaysia, like equality, but I feel like that's a genuinely more positive way of seeing the world. It has kept my nihilism at bay because, like I said, like I think at one point I was very negative about people. Like I thought I will be like, oh, that guy's up to something. I'll be skeptical. I was a natural skeptic, but that point of view allows me to like, you know what, like Christians have their faith, and I used to be a part of that. That also helped me develop in a certain way. Like the fact that I can speak now eloquently and all is all church. I give all the credit to church, Like
good training,
I was on stage, I worship led, I knew how and that helped my music career. I can go on a big festival stage and not shiver, And so I think now, of course, after many years, it's been like, 6 or 7 years since I like officially deconstructed, but it's like I can look back and go like, oh, I wrote my first few songs. I played my first guitar chords, My Redeemer Lives, E7 and A. I was 10 then. And to me, those memories are still so valuable. So, sorry, I know I went one round. You asked about expectation of church. I don't. I think I have no. I guess the only minimal expectation, this one may be shots fired a bit, but yeah, those churches that have all their scandals and all, please just remove these people from staff. Don't try to rehabilitate them. They're offenders. I'm not going to say who. Sorry, I'm a bit harsh. I think I'm a bit particular about that because I have had friends hurt and abused, people that left. So they had actual major cases. And so those people don't deserve to be in leadership. They are wolf in sheep's clothing, don't represent Christianity as all. So that's my only, like, if you ask a negative, like, expectation, I'm like, the bare minimum is don't be a criminal and actually lead your sheep, So, but other than that, I love church people. I love Christians. We're cool.
Wow.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks for sharing that. Wow. Okay. So we've got questions from the crowd.
Yes.
Quite a number of questions. Usually how we do this is we ask as it is. Also for you guys, if you're writing in the question, because we are reading it as it is, it's good that you give us context or whatnot. Like, write properly so we can ask properly and you get the answer that you want. But so there's a lot. I'm not sure if you can cover everything. As I read, pastors will also check through. But let's go through this, right? So thanks for sharing, Sam. Very relatable. Did you have to deal with any fallout from your deconstruction? with your family and community?
I think I'm considered quite lucky because I think most people I think Pastor Andy is a classic example, right? I think when he first found out, I was a bit like, because I think you were asking me to do a talk for a conference or something.
Yeah.
And then I felt like, oops, he doesn't know that I'm like no longer. I think when I shared my story, I was received like, I wasn't like pushed away, I wasn't shunned. In fact, I ended up doing the talk anyway,
Yeah, I remember that.
I mean, the topic was not very religious, but like it was sort of tools for people in the world. But I think from, like I said, with my mom just said like, my brothers as well, it's like, you're still my koko, like I'm the eldest. And I think for me, it was, I was expecting worst case scenario, but I had best case scenario. Maybe because over the years, my bonds with these friends were strong enough to kind of last this test of, But of course, the church that I did go to in here, I think the minute I stepped away, there's like no contact, except for a select few that like I lived with, and we're still friends to this day. So yeah, in terms of fallout, I was expecting the worst. I was so fearful of rejection, but turns out it wasn't that bad. Like people were not that judgmental. Yeah.
But you were not loud about this also, right? I think this is like your first time going public about.
Actually, I just posted a tweet.
Right,
Those who saw the tweet saw the tweet. And there were some people that reached out back then, and I appreciated those people. Some pastors from, some leaders also from a few churches in PJ, and not the church I went to, but like people that I met through that process of like. So yeah, and they didn't like try to reconvert me, or it was just more of like, if you need to talk, like if there's like by that time during lockdown so a bit hard, so we never actually met or conversed. Yeah, but yeah.
Cool. So next question. I've gone through similar story and feel agnostic. While I feel more myself, I have bouts of emptiness. So do you feel empty? If so, how do you deal with it?
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, definitely. I think especially the first 2 years of like not being in the faith, there was, like I said, it was the worst. I think probably the worst, and we were in a lockdown too. Actually, no, just before the lockdown. But there was bouts of emptiness. I kept busy during the first 2 years because I was building Law Spaces. 2018, 2019 were like pivotal years for my career, which thankfully blew up. And 2020 was when everything was quiet, right? And then I had to wrestle with it, like in real time. Because before that, I just busy, man. I play this festival, I do this, whatever. Yeah, so emptiness is crazy at that time. And I think for me, the question was like, what did I do to deal with emptiness, right? For me, sounds a bit like funny, but actually not funny lah. But it's cliche. But I think really art and music lah saved my life. Because at that point of time, if I were to overshare a bit, I was like, I've never been suicidal my whole life, but trigger warning, that was the first time I did have thoughts of like, what's the point of it all, right? And there was this manga artist, I think, this manga called Berserk. All the emo men will probably read this manga at one point. And I think the author actually passed away. And at that time, I was like reading the story. It was a story about like fighting against fate, right? This lone man alone trying to defy fate, essentially, right? And he was also, without spoiling, there was a lot of twists and turns in that story. But I think that helped me feel less alone in my suffering, because it felt like almost like the author was writing that that manga piece for me. And then when he passed, it was like, I was super sad. And I think for me, the art and also stuff like One Piece. I think I started watching One Piece. And I think it all sort of came to art and music then became like the centerpiece of my life. And weirdly enough, I think I found my calling in that point where I realized that I'm like, if there's a God, He put me on this earth to just create. And I started loving stories. I started like adding layers and slowly like rebuilding my sense of self and through my art. And art, my music as well was kind of my free therapy before I actually went to therapy because it allowed me to express and like I have songs that I'm very angry with God, right? I don't think I ever put it out, but it was my wrestle, my emotions, my pain, right? And I think at the end of it all, of course, like I said, I ended up taking different junk, like there's stuff in the Bible that I still adopt and I still live by, and stuff from even the Quran as well and the Zen Buddhism. And that helped me sort of center myself with Sam as the main character. I think before that, my life was Jesus the main character. And I didn't really see Sam, even though the ego was always fighting to come up, you know. So whereas like now, for me, after that, I was able to like, okay, you're a whole person, you know. You're not empty. You're not. You don't need fixing in that sense. Yeah. I think I didn't touch on it earlier, but like the whole idea of the original sin also was a paramount part of me, how I viewed myself and my self-confidence and my self-worth, where it's like, oh, there's something wrong with me when I was born. Because Adam sinned, then something wrong with me. So then there was this constant need as a 10-year-old and you're growing up, the need of validation from God and Jesus. Like it didn't become healthy for the development of myself. Yeah. So yeah, I think art helped me find my sense of self. And when I looked at the Bible as art, it was so much more fulfilling. And that's why I landed where I landed, yeah. So yeah, emptiness.
It's like, how do you deal with emptiness? You write music or you watch anime?
Yes. Thank you for summarizing.
Do you know there's a manga Bible?
Oh yes, there's a manga Bible. I have read that too.
I have it and I just given it to my son.
Let's go. That's good. That's good stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool.
Pretty cool.
We've probably got time for one or maybe max two questions.
Okay,
Do you have a favorite one there?
Oh, no, not really.
Okay. While you search, I asked a filler questions. Do you have any new song coming up? And that's actually written here.
So I kind of have been on a hiatus for a bit, but I am finishing up a 6-track EP. Should be out this year, but I think over the last year I've been taking things a bit more slow because I think before this, like if we talk about the music industry, is like you need to be constantly on. And I realized that was bad for my mental health. So I actually went offline for like the first 6 months of this year and I only started coming back on. So now it's like, all right, I think I have my music. So I should put it out. But yeah, end of the year.
By end of the year. Awesome.
Thank you.
Awesome. Cool.
There's a question here.
Yeah.
Do you experience any grief in thinking about how you would have lived your life differently then if you didn't have to cosplay as a Christian growing up?
Oh, all the time. I think, like even with my music career, right, I realized that, I don't know if it was a coincidence or whatever. No, actually it's not a coincidence. Like, I think maybe because of the way I was brought up, I was thought that my gifts, my songwriting, my ability to make music was only to give glory to God, right? So I grew up not even attempting to write a single secular song. Like my whole catalog from 12 years old, I wrote Psalm 23, I turned it into a song, which all my peers and at that time sang along to. It's a good song actually, 4 chords, but good song. And through multiple camp songs and everything, it was sort of ingrained in me that I was given these gifts not to serve myself. And so it was, I don't think it's even in the Bible, but therefore if I serve myself, so maybe this is like wrong doctrine from my pastors or at that time growing up, but I literally like psychoed myself to like, oh, I cannot, until I fell in love with my second girlfriend. And then I wrote 6 songs about her. Then I was like, is this a sin? I actually thought to myself, did I sin against God for writing these songs about someone I loved, right, at that time? So I think for me, it was a big, like, so that inhibited me from, or at least it put a block for me to starting. So I started music very late. I'm 32 this year. I started music only 7 years ago, exactly when I deconstructed or when I left the church, right? It was almost like leaving gave me, like if I didn't leave, there's no lost spaces. I don't know whether it's good or sad to say, but in hindsight, I do grieve over the fact that maybe I could have because I've always felt like I've played catch up with my music career, right? Compared to other people who have started way younger. And our society is very ageist in that sense. Lucky for me, I'm Asian, so I don't really look 32, so maybe I have a few more years to do this. But I think that definitely, the grief is definitely there. I think the painful part, actually no, now in hindsight, I look back and I feel like the fact that I started later in the music industry with my prefrontal cortex actually developed has kept me out of trouble. I've been able to carve a good career and sustainable career because I do know friends who started earlier than me that ended up fizzling out and succumbing to vices and stuff. But yeah, so grief, yes, I'd had a long period where I was like, oh, if only I bought my laptop earlier and I learned music production at this point, I would be. So it's all hindsight, right? But now when I look back, it's like, you know what? It worked out. It's not too bad, So yeah, I'm grateful now, yeah.
You have a question?
No.
Okay. I'll let you end the episode. I'll say a final word, I guess. So, is the Earth flat or is it a sphere?
Triangle.
Okay.
Yeah, you haven't heard of that, right?
All right.
I prefer a
Okay,
pentagon.
so I was there's a point to this. Born in Malaysia, but I studied in the US. And I recently went to China. Okay, so I'm heading somewhere. So in Malaysia, when I was taught the world map, it's generally Europe in the middle.
Right.
And then I went to the US. I'm like, wait, this map is wrong. Because US is in the middle. It's like US is here, and then I went to China recently. China's in the middle.
China's center, right.
They're literally called 中国. Like, they're literally like, we are the middle country.
Right.
So where's the middle really? So it makes me think, and I don't say this to sound offensive, more of a matter of factly that I'm saying this. I think the difference between a Christian and a non-Christian, and I say this generally, not just you, but anyone, is that the main difference between these two persons is who is the center. I think a non-Christian would have themselves in the center. Like I am the most important person in this story. I do this for me, this is right. That would be if you had a map of your life, you'd be in the center. Whereas a Christian, if they truly want to call themselves Christian, they cannot live like that and call themselves Christian. The center has to be someone else, and it has to be God. I think that will be the difference between someone who calls himself a Christian and someone who doesn't. The whole, like, all your worldview, everything you understand about the world, the truth, your starting point, focal point, all of that, I think is very different. It's like, yeah, if you live in a certain part of the world, your map looks different lah. Yeah, so that will be my final word.
Yeah.
The earth is triangle. Okay.
Okay, that's all we have for you today in our dialogue. And thank you, Sam, once again for sharing your story.
Thank you guys
Yeah.
for having me. It's been a treat. I was really scared at first, but I was like, what? Y'all are great people, so it's chill.
Chilling, yeah.
And I do
chilling.
personally, my hope is like that. I know as leaders and all, like, you might come across people like me, right? And this can help, like, inform and also, like, maybe as to the people out there watching, like, do get equipped and, like, do get what you call, like, dig deep. I always say this, like, I rather, like, be around Christians who know their stuff, and even though we might disagree, but at least you stand for something, you know? Yeah, I get quite disappointed when I have conversations with Christians who never question what they... Even though I do have empathy, maybe it's just not their upbringing, right? Like I mentioned earlier. But so thank you. I hope that like that came across. Like I said, I'm not here to like dunk on Christianity, or I'm not even championing some like agnostic or atheist point of view, because like I said, this is a current conclusion, and I think I am constantly learning. We are all constantly learning, right?
Yeah.
And who knows, tomorrow, like, a piece of news might come out that indicates the existence of angels, right?
Yeah.
Then, like, I can't just sit there and go like, oh, nah, it's cap. But I would have to look at it and go like, hey, this might be pointing to, you know? Of course, it hasn't happened yet, but like, for me, my position has always been like, I would love things to be updated, and if I need to change my mind, I will. But I think my position, like you said earlier, is like I need it to be proven in that sense.
Yeah.
So
If you do change your mind and I'm still alive, we might do another episode.
oh yes, let's go.
It's an update.
Yeah.
But that's very good.
no,
So
thank you for your
my
grace as
takeaway
well,
is
yeah.
literally that. I think as a Christian, and I think many of them are watching this even behind the camera, right? We just got to be more equipped, because questions are there. In fact, everyone is asking questions now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even the younger ones are asking questions now.
Yeah.
You started asking 7 years ago. 5-6-year-old people are asking that same question.
Right,
And I
right,
think
right.
if us like older Christians, and our answer to that is always, have faith, trust God, and we just use that as an excuse not to give proper answer, I think we are in trouble. So to pastors, to leaders, it's about time to equip ourselves better, I guess.
Well, that's all for now. We hope you've been inspired and impacted by the content today. If you have been blessed by what you've experienced, well, you know what to do. Please like, subscribe, and share it with your family and friends. We love hearing from you, so please comment and do share your feedback, thoughts, or even questions and content ideas. Search, follow, or tag us on social media at Generations Mind. For more information, check out bit.ly/generationsmind. Until next time, God bless.